Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode of the PS2 Collector. I am your host Gamer1994, and as always, as I stated in my previous videos, I am on the hunt to collect every single PS2 game released worldwide. So at the moment I'm currently on 100 out of 4,376 games. Boy, we've got a long way to go. So I bet you guys are wondering where I've been for the past couple of weeks, so I'm gonna address that right now. So I was on a holiday to the land of the rising sun in the magical country of Japan, and boy, let me tell you, visiting Japan was an absolutely tremendous experience. I absolutely had an amazing time there. I stayed there for 8 days, and I mainly spent my time in my opinion, the main two cities of Japan, and that is Osaka and Tokyo. So in Osaka, the first couple of days I spent there, I got to see the Osaka Castle. Let me tell you, the Osaka Castle live in person is a different experience. The castle is absolutely preserved to look like brand new. 500 years to look in that condition is amazing. So in the castle, it's like a museum all about the castle's history. So once I was done with the castle, I went to the local museum and I got to learn in-depth detail about Osaka's history. Mainly they emphasize about the Great Osaka War and life and fashion in Japan throughout the centuries. So yeah, I got to learn loads about Osaka. Another thing in Osaka is Dotonbori. That is where all the game stores are at. And the main two game stores that I highly recommend in Osaka is Book Off and Super Potato. Yeah, so I mainly spent my time getting games from there. I was mainly looking at Japanese exclusives because I know getting exclusives in Europe is very hard, especially in Japan. So I made that priority #1. So yeah, so once I saw Dotonbori, let me tell you, Osaka is like the food capital of Japan. In Dotonbori, there's food stalls everywhere, loads of variety as well. So yeah, if you want to visit Japan and you want to know what for a foodie, what's the best location is, that is definitely Osaka. So then I spent 5 days in Tokyo. I got to see the crown jewel of Japan, and that was Mount Fuji. And let me tell you, Mount Fuji is an absolute masterpiece. It is a must see live in person. How big it is. You see on photos, you go, wow, it's big, but live in person, it is an absolute massive mountain. And to even get a picture close up is very hard because I went on a day where it was very cloudy and you could not see the peak of the mountain. But I managed to get a shot of the peak. You have to go a bit further back, far away from the mountain to get the huge view of it. And I managed to get that money shot, and that for me was a tremendous experience alone. And yeah, in Tokyo, where I got majority of my PS2 games, Super Potato there, my word. When I went in there, I saw the signatures of Kenny Omega and AJ Styles, who are famous professional wrestlers, especially Kenny Omega, who wrestles in AEW, and AJ Styles, who's a multiple world champion in Japan, WWE, TNA. So yeah, it's very cool to see their signatures, and that's like a validation from them to let us know that you are in a special video game store. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. So in this series, I'm going to make it a 3-part series. I'm going to show 10 games per each episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned. Let's see what I have bought from Japan. So let's begin. So game number 101 is Jujutsu 7. So the Jujutsu series in Japan is hugely popular. So in Japan, this game got 13 separate PS2 games. So that's 13 Japanese exclusives I need to get. So these games are dirt cheap. So I bought this game for about 110 yen, which is like 50p. So it's very cheap. But another thing, I can see why this game was not released in the West, because especially in America, if this game was released in America, it would have got absolutely annihilated by the more polished and more realistic MLB series. So yeah, I can see why the developers kept it in Japan. It just makes more sense because the money is in Japan rather than taking a risk of releasing it abroad and becoming a commercial flop. Because we have seen a lot of games come from Japan, released in the West and become commercial flops. That was one thing that developers need to avoid, and in this case they got it spot on. So yeah, if you're into your baseball games and you've not played a game from the Jujutsu series before, give it a go. You might not be disappointed. You might like the kiddie version and the bare bone version of baseball games. But yeah, game number 101. Game number 102 is a visual novel, and it's got a very popular name, dare I say, Ragnarok. So as you know, in Japan, visual novels were a huge success, and it took the West, I think, a decade to accept the genre, because at the time there were so many gems coming out in Europe for PS2 games, such as the GTA series, the PES series, RPGs such as Final Fantasy. There's so many games out there for the PS2. There was no room for visual novels, so that's why majority of these games stayed in Japan. And with visual novels, since they were made in mass quantity in Japan, they are quite cheap. So I got this game for about 150 yen. You can't go wrong, especially for a visual novel. But be aware, these games unfortunately did not have an English option. So this game is only in Japanese, unfortunately. But yeah, for 150 yen, which is like 80p, you can't go wrong for a Japanese exclusive. And that, my friend, is game number 102. Game number 103 is yet another visual novel. It's got a very funky name, dare I say, Ryukoku. So Ryukoku, same as Ragnarok, a visual novel game, only played in Japanese, but this game is a bit more expensive. So this game costs 748 yen, which is like £4. So yeah, it's not that expensive. Yeah, if you're into your visual novels, and I hope one day there's a fan translation of these games, just try to give it a go. Me personally, I've been playing it on Google Translator. It does have a decent story, but again, with translators, it's a hit or miss. They translate the wrong stuff, unfortunately. But yeah, another visual novel game, and that's game number 103, Ryukoku. Game number 104 is a game from the Dynasty Warriors series, but did I say a side game, and that is Warriors Orochi. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy my hack and slash, but with the Dynasty Warriors series, it's absolutely repeatable. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. It is a bit of fun, but again, to create a whole series on it, I don't get it. They created basically a side game which is called Warriors Orochi, which is based in the Dynasty Warriors world, and yeah, it is very cheap, 200 yen. This game was released in Japan first, and then it got a European release. But if you want to go for the cheaper option, it's got to be with the Japanese version. It only costs 200 yen. You can't go wrong with the graphics, with the upscaled graphics and the gameplay for 200 yen. Bargain. So yeah, that's game number 104. Game number 105 is a tennis game which got a worldwide release. It was first released in Japan, and it got released in the West, in America and Europe a year later. And that is Everybody's Tennis. Me personally, I'm not into tennis games. If there was one tennis game that I could recommend, it was Virtua Tennis on the Dreamcast. For me, this game here is very kiddie. It's got that Nintendo Wii style graphics, if that makes sense. They try to cash in the Wii U success. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea. It only cost me 300 yen, which is £1.50, and it's another game into my collection. And that, my friends, is game number 105. Game number 106, if you're into your tactical RPGs, I've got to recommend this, and that is Phantom Brave for the PS2. So tactical RPGs for me is a love-hate relationship, because there's some tactical RPGs that I like and there's some tactical RPGs that I hate. The one that comes to mind that I do like is the Fire Emblem series on the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo Switch. So those tactical RPG games is where I consider the barometer of tactical RPGs. If you disagree with that, leave in the comments below. But Phantom Brave, I heard it got mixed reviews. There was issues with the graphics, especially for the European version. It's quite toned down compared to the Japanese version. And yeah, I already spent about 500 yen on this game. So if you're into your tactical RPGs, try to give Phantom Brave a go. It did get a release in Europe and North America. But yeah, for me in America and Europe, this game is very hard to find. So in Japan, I'm glad I picked this up. And that, my friends, is game number 106. Game number 107 is Ark the Lad Twilight Saga. So this game was hugely popular in the early days, especially on the PS1. When it came out on the PS2, again at the time, this is what I consider the PS2 to be the greatest console of all time. There were so many great games out there, but again there was so less time, and there was just games that were way more popular, especially the RPG at the time, Xenosaga, Final Fantasy, things like that. And then there was Ark the Lad, and again Ark the Lad just could not compete with the more polished titles. But yeah, I did hear that this game got very good reviews, and it's a game that I really wanted to play and pick up. I'm just hoping one day again that these games do get a Nintendo Switch release. The amount of money I spent on this game was not that much. I only spent about 300 yen, which is about £2.50. So yeah, it's a very cheap, more cheaper than the European version, let me tell you. And yep, that's game number 106. So 107. So game number 108, if I got that right. So game number 108 is a hidden gem, especially in Japan. It's the Monster Hunter 2. So Monster Hunter 2 was a huge success in Japan, and I'm really surprised that Capcom did not give it a Western release, which is a huge crime today, because I heard a lot of good reviews about this game, and I've seen the gameplay. I'm thinking, boy, if this game was released in the West, it would have been a huge success. It only cost me 580 yen. For me personally, I've only played one game from the series, which is on the PS3, and I think I played it online, which is really fun. It is a fun game. You get to find some random monsters in certain areas, and there's a huge world. And yeah, if you're into your Monster Hunter series and you've not played Monster Hunter 2, please give it a go. You won't be disappointed. And that, my friend, is game number 108. Game number 109 is another game from the Monster Hunter series, and that is Monster Hunter G. And similar to Monster Hunter 2, this game was a Japanese exclusive. This game got mixed reviews. It's not as popular as Monster Hunter 2, but it's a good game nonetheless. And to be fair, the covers for the Monster Hunter game, just the artwork alone, sells the game in my opinion. I also heard that Monster Hunter G got a PSP release in Europe and America, so if you want to give this game a go in English, you're going to have to get the PSP version, or hope one day Capcom releases it on the PSN store or on the Switch, whatever comes first. 880 yen for this game is not it's a bargain. I can't understand why it's more expensive than Monster Hunter 2, but it is what it is. 880 yen for game number 109, Monster Hunter G. And the final game in this video is a limited edition, and for me, when it comes to limited editions for the PS2, they are very hard to find, especially in good condition. But in Japan, I get to realize they took care of their games really well. It comes to a point where you think, is this brand new from the package? That's how well kept the games were in Japan. And the final game, limited edition, Demon Hunter, the next world as translated. And for me, I bought this game for 4,400 yen. I had to get a limited edition and I had to pay a pretty penny for it. So in translation, this game cost me £23, which is not a bad deal, especially in good condition. So yeah, that's the front cover. I'm going to open it up now. So what you get with it is, let me open it up. There you go. So you get the base game, and in the base game you get the audio CD, where whilst you're playing the game you get the audio as well as the base game. It also came with an absolute phenomenal manual. I think it's a script or a manual. Yeah, it's a Japanese script of the game. If you look at that, that's a script of the game, and it's also signed by the developers of the game, but I think this is a print rather than a signing. And what the cool thing is, it came with two figures which I'm not going to open. So you get one figure here which is the male, and another one which is another male, I think. Yeah, so you get two action figures with it, or two figures. And yeah, for a limited edition, what I got with it for £22, you can't go wrong. And that, my friend, is game number 110. It's another visual novel, if you want to know what the genre is. And again, with visual novels, they're just one-dimensional, and just again, many of them were in Japan. And yeah, that's the end of this video. And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more content like this, please leave a subscription. And if you want to know when my channel's going on, there's a bell icon below which will notify you once I upload my videos. Anyways guys, until next time, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care.